yourself in there too.
Oh, it was in there.
Right. Okay. FD Cradles is about American-based companies who've set up shop over the Mexican border. And my thesis of the speech is that U.S. companies should have to follow all EPA rules and regulations while operating out of the country. Janet Ramirez gave the final push and little Maria Guadalupe came barreling into the world. Her journey here on Earth would be short-lived, though, as doctors knew right away that something had gone terribly wrong. Maria Guadalupe suffered from a condition referred to as anencephaly. Anencephaly is a neural tube defect, and this is a picture of a baby, a fetus that was stillborn with anencephaly. You can tell that the upper cranial bones that would enclose the brain are missing, as well as the cerebrum and cerebellum. This anencephaly prevents normal fetal development. It prevents the neural tube from closing. This is where the spinal column and the brainstem would ultimately be closed and would meet. This always results in the death. In death. If a fetus was to go full term, they would die within 4 hours of being delivered. American companies have set up shop along a 200-mile stretch of the Rio Grande River. The Rio Grande is the facade of silent solitude, and newborn babies like Maria Guadalupe have to carry the secrets of these American companies to their graves. American companies have dumped toxic chemicals into the Rio Grande River for decades now, since the North American Free Trade Agreement went into effect. This agreement had many problems, though. It was signed by Congress in 1992, but went unimplemented until 1994. Companies like Fisher-Price, Delphi, Hasbro, and Sony Electronics are all examples of companies that now operate out of Mexico. The NAFTA had some major problems. They didn't have a cleanup plan in place, and environmental enforcement was non-existent. Maquiladoras American companies like the idea of setting up in Mexico for various different reasons. One is they have cheap labor. The employees work long hours for very, very little amounts of money. The U.S. government and the EPA have no jurisdiction in Mexico, and they're basically allowed to run freely without any repercussions for their actions. This is an example of a U.S. company burning off chemicals in Mexico. They burn off things like xylene, lead, arsenic, and sulfuric acid. Xylene was found along the Rio Grande in Mexico, right outside of an American company, at 53,000 times the level acceptable by the EPA here in the United States. So that company would have been shut down here in the United States. The Mexican government allows this dumping to occur for many reasons. One is a lack of education. They don't realize how detrimental these chemicals really are to their environment, their health, and their ecosystem. They have a lack of funding, so no funds have been appropriated towards environmental enforcement. The employees have a fear of losing their jobs and being blackballed from the employment market altogether. And high-paying officials have accepted bribes from U.S. companies to keep silent about this dumping. The other thing is that all of these labels on toxic chemicals that are in these corporations are written in English. This is a language that most of these citizens cannot even speak, let alone read or write. So they have no idea how toxic these chemicals are that they're handling every day. It's time that the U.S. government take responsibility for their actions. We've behaved horrifically in Mexico, and these companies need to be held liable for their actions. I think that all companies that act on foreign soil should be held to the same standards they are here in the United States. So in other words, whatever the EPA has set forth as acceptable regulations here in the United States should also be carried over in Mexico, China, Guatemala, Honduras, wherever in the world these companies are operating. Thank you very much for your time.
A person in economics named Jeffrey Myron, he